I'm working on cam bearings for this Fairbanks Z Style D engine, and got the camshaft out. There's the little bitty piston hole. Such a big chunk of cast iron for such a small piston. But anyway, let's take a look at the bearings here. The ones on the right are obviously the ones out of the engine, and the ones on the left I picked up on eBay. And so next step is to put those new bearings in. These are the governor weights here. So the faster this turns, these weights then fly out and move this little collar. And then down inside here, right there, is a little rod that fits into that slot. And then this is connected to the air mixture, or the fuel mixture butterfly. To time the cam to the crank, the cam has two teeth right here with a little bevel on them. And then we have to find a corresponding single tooth on the crankshaft. And I see it just coming up here, right there. So that single tooth has to fit between these two teeth. One thing I forgot to pay attention to is this little rod that goes down into the slot of the governor. So I just pried it over and got it into the governor slot. So where are those teeth? There they are. There's those two. So when they run down to here, it lines perfectly up with this single one with the notch ground out of the side of it. So bearings are nice and tight. Tighten the caps up. I don't know if this shows up very well, but there's a dipper here that splashes the oil up. This doesn't have an oil pump, so it just depends on that little dipper to go down and splash the oil up. And I just found this little washer that needs to go down in a groove here, so I have to loosen the camshaft back up again, get that positioned right. So this has to be set all the way over to fast, over towards the flywheel to get the little tab behind there to seat properly. Well, I think we have a little problem, not unsurmountable, but appears we have no compression, or very little. So I have to take the cover back off, adjust the tappet clearance, 10 to 15 thousandths is what it's supposed to be. So that involves taking the camshaft back out. So apparently somebody adjusted the valves when the bearings were really loose on the cam. Here's the lifter, and inside the lifter it's a shim pack inside there. So you pull out as many shims as you need to make the clearance what it needs to be. And what do we have? We have a steel cap, and the cap goes on the side that the valve hits. So this is a hardened cap, and then all these other discs are shims. And so we take out the shims that we need to get the right clearance. So it's kind of a pain. Have to put it together, measure. If it's wrong, take the cam back out, take out more shims or add more shims. So we'll see if we can get close. It's supposed to be 10 to 15 thousandths. Here are the two tappets out, and there are several shims in each one. Some are 30 thousandths and some are 3 thousandths. So I'm sure I can get the right combination of each one. So this exhaust and intake. It's kind of funny, you look at some of these, like this one. It's been worn down on the side. It's been touching the side and just slowly moving, creeping over to the side, and so it's been wearing. So it's no longer a circle. And a couple on the exhaust have been doing the same thing, not quite so drastically though, but you can see that they're football shaped and not round anymore. So we'll get the right combination of these things and put them back in the engine. I got the shims all figured out on the tappets, so I have it 10 thousandths on the intake and exhaust. Now I need to time the magneto to the crank. There's a line here on the flywheel, and that needs to line up with the seam where the two halves meet on the crankcase. And so we spin this around until we're coming up on the compression stroke. Right there. Line up the line on the flywheel with this seam in the crankcase. And then you look through this hole for this little arrow. So we just spin this thing around and then try to get it back into the hole in here.